Support for this podcast comes from the Central Valley Journalism Collaborative, connecting communities with the resources, infrastructure, and networks to ensure a vibrant local free press.
From KVPR in Fresno, this is Central Valley Daily. It's Thursday, April 2nd. I'm Sarith Hawk. Comedian Patton Oswalt is bringing his latest stand-up show to Fresno tomorrow, and it's much more personal than some of his other work you may know.
When you're acting, when you're doing voice work, that is a scripted thing. It's not being generated from you. I'm just trying to deliver a character, a performance.
Patton is the voice of Remy the Rat in Ratatouille, among many other roles. We discuss how his stand-up is different. That's coming up in just a moment, but first, these headlines. California's snowpack is at 18% of average for this time of year. That's the result of the latest survey conducted yesterday at Phillips Station near Lake Tahoe. Officials with the California Department of Water Resources say Wednesday's snow measurements were the second lowest for the month of April. The lowest reading was in 2015 during an extreme drought. An unprecedented heat wave struck California earlier than usual this year, which has contributed to the earlier snowmelt. 6 candidates running to be the next governor of California took the stage in Fresno yesterday. The speakers included 2 Republican candidates plus 4 Democrats. The candidates answered questions focused on agriculture and affordability, with specific focus on the Central Valley. One of the first questions addressed how the candidates would tackle California's high cost of living. Here's Republican candidate, Riverside County Sheriff Chad Bianco.
Cost of living is predominantly because of regulations and taxes. End of story. So how do you fix it? You remove the regulations and you reduce or eliminate the taxes.
Meanwhile, former Democratic Representative Katie Porter said bringing down the cost of housing is key to her campaign.
If we can drive down the cost of housing, we can help Californians afford to stay here. That's both young people, but people who are at the end of their working career afford to retire here. There's no bigger piece of your budget than housing. You've got to take aim at the biggest cost.
The event comes a week after a similar debate at USC was canceled. A second forum took place last night at Fresno City College, focusing on workers and families. On the topic of the governor's race, Democrats are worried their crowded field may mean a Republican face-off for the first time in years. Under California's top 2 primary system, the top 2 candidates from the June primary move on to the general election regardless of political party. Mail-in voting starts in about a month, and Democrats still have no clear standout. A major survey on the use of artificial intelligence by students and faculty in the California State University system is offering insight into the use of the technology. KVPR's Crescencio Rodriguez Delgado has this report.
The CSU is the largest public university system in the country. Last fall, it asked students, staff, and faculty about how they use and view AI. This was the first system-wide survey of its kind. More than 90,000 responses were submitted. Among the key findings are that 95% of respondents have used an AI tool. And while a majority of faculty, students, and staff have used it, an overwhelming majority felt the need to verify AI's accuracy. Most students have even expressed a desire to have more training on it. The survey also found students are thinking about the ethical boundaries of AI. 80% say they aren't comfortable submitting AI-generated work as their own, and faculty say they are also using it to develop coursework. And about 2/3 of them provide an explicit AI statement in their syllabus. This major research study found there is widespread belief that AI is the future, but that also comes with similar fears of job security. For KVPR News, I'm Crescencio Rodriguez Delgado.
Bakersfield Memorial Hospital just announced the completion of pediatric operating rooms. They are the only such operating rooms offered in Kern County, according to hospital officials. The $23 million investment is expected to give families an option for child surgeries without leaving the county. The expanded facilities at Memorial Hospital first broke ground in 2023.
Central Valley Daily listeners like to know what's going on in their community. And coming up this spring is our Corks and Brews event. On Sunday, May 3rd, we'll have nearly 40 different wineries and breweries waiting to pour you a drink. Come put a face to the names of the people behind this podcast. We'll also have live music, a silent auction, and food trucks. Tickets are $75. Get yours today at kvpr.org.
And now to our main story. Patton Oswalt has hundreds of acting credits to his name and voice. He's played Remy in Ratatouille and Max in Secret Life of Pets. He's also been on countless shows. And when he isn't acting, he is writing his own material and has a lengthy career as a comedian, including several coveted Netflix specials. Just don't ask Patton what he's working on. That's something he prefers for you to experience in person. And you can do that tomorrow at the Warnor's Theater in Fresno, where he's performing his latest comedy special titled Effervescent. KVPR's Elizabeth Arkalian spoke with Patton in advance of his show and discussed a number of things, including his views on artificial intelligence as a voice actor and writer. Patton kicks off the conversation with what fans can expect from his latest tour.
A brand new hour of material. Just, my special is coming out in June. I have a new one. This is a new hour that I'm putting together that I'm really, really happy with. I don't want to, obviously give away the subject matter or what I'm going to be covering, but in an overall sense, it's just covering the madness that we're all dealing with right now in a very, very direct way.
That was my follow-up, is if you find sort of the tense moments we're in politically and just the news cycle that we're in, if those you find support you in terms of coming up with new material or giving you inspiration, and how much you kind of respond to the current moment.
Yeah, well, it's a weird combo for me, only that not all of my act is about the current moment, but I do have to address it at a couple of points, or I look like I'm insane because it's on everyone's mind. But I'm also very aware there's people there that would like to get away from that. And I'd also like to give myself a respite from it, of not having to talk about it, not having to deal with it. So, there's a weird push-pull. It's such an enormity going on right now, but I don't want it to take up all of the time, if that makes sense.
Tell us what people can expect from your show in just a broader sense, and why the name Effervescent was the right approach to take.
Effervescent, I mean, my album titles, my tour titles have nothing to do with the show. It's just a placeholder. It wasn't any way I was particularly, although this one is used obviously very ironically. But I really, again, I don't want to tell people what to expect from the show. I like the surprise. I don't want you to know what it is I'm going to be talking about, what I'm going to be covering, that kind of thing. It's always a bad question to ask a comedian, what can people expect from the show? Because we don't want to tell you. That's the whole point.
Well, let's take a look backwards then, because people may recognize you or your voice from previous work, such as your work as Remy in Ratatouille. You've also been in a number of shows, Parks and Rec, AP Bio, King of Queens, countless awards you've won as a writer as well. How is your sort of stand-up and comedy work different from other voice work and acting work you've done over the years?
Well, a lot of the voice work, when you're acting, when you're doing voice work, that is a scripted thing. It's not being generated from you. I'm just trying to deliver a character, a performance. I'm doing a job for hire, but when I'm doing stand-up, it is very, very personal. Here's what's going on with me in my life. Here's how I'm reacting to the world, that kind of thing. So there's a nice little, they're both creative endeavors, but the stand-up is always way more personal.
Yeah. And you've had a number of comedy specials on Netflix. You mentioned you're working on new material. Is anything in this tour you're kind of hoping or aiming towards potentially another special?
I'm always working on whatever the next hour, whatever the next album, whatever the next special is going to be. That's just something that I'll always be doing. But yeah, this is definitely generating stuff for what comes next. So yeah, you will definitely see a lot of new stuff. Once something comes out in a special or on an album, I never do it again on stage. So you're not going to hear any of my old stuff. This is all brand new.
So much is changing in general, but especially in Hollywood in recent years. Yeah. We've seen, a lot of debate over artificial intelligence, actor strikes, the like. Curious how you see your career kind of evolving over the next 5-10 years, and just what keeps you inspired when so much is changing.
That's a really interesting question, because there's two sides to that. There's I know that I'm going to have to figure out how to work in this shifting landscape. But then again, you always have to figure that out. But as far as artificial intelligence being used creatively, I just feel like I'm always going to be defiantly never ever using AI or Chat GPT or anything like that to write or create anything I do. And if that, I feel like there's going to be a wall hit with AI, just like it was with, in a lot of ways with CGI, where people just kind of like, enough, this isn't special anymore. And they kind of went back to seeing the real thing. That's one of the reasons I think that MMA and stuff like Jackass got so popular, was because it was so refreshing to actually see, oh, this is the actual human body in motion and not something that was generated on a computer screen. You know, when you have these movies where there's CGI in every scene, then by definition, those aren't special effects. And by definition, that's not special anymore.
Well, and certainly for you being a voice actor, I mean, there's a lot to consider about how your expertise could be, wielded against you in a way.
Yes, there's a lot of that now. A lot of people are scrambling to figure out, wait a minute, what of mine has been recorded? What are they going to be able to reuse without me? That is a concern. That is something that I will always be very, very aware of.
And especially because you write as well. You're not just a voice, you're a writer. So understanding sort of your stance on artificial intelligence and having this sort of purist perspective, it's helpful because there's a lot of debate about whether, to your point about CGI, things should be labeled as AI. There's a scramble to label them as AI. Well, conversely, there's a scramble to just label what's real, because AI can be so overly simplified and it almost, people have that craving for that authentic voice, that authentic picture, that I think there is a fear that will be erased through this like striving for perfection through AI.
Yeah, and I don't turn away from the fact that I am dead set against AI. I'm also very, very confused as to how any of it is popular, because I always thought artificial intelligence would be used to do, design electronic grids or just do all the like boring, non-creative stuff that we have to do to live. We would hand that over to AI and then we would do the creative stuff, and the exact opposite seems to be happening. Making music and art and writing is we get to do that. That's not something that I've ever thought like, oh, I wish I could just hand this off to a machine. You get to do that. Why do you want a machine generating that stuff for you? It never makes sense to me.
I love that perspective. I think there's probably a lot of people that agree with that.
Right.
That being said, you're kicking off the tour that I believe wraps up in June. Is that right?
I'm kind of beyond that age where I can be on the road for weeks and weeks. So I'm going out for these 4 days. Okay. I'm going to come home for a little bit and regroup. Then I'm going to go do some stuff in New York, come back. Like I go out for a few days, I come back. So I'll be out in April for these 4 days. I come back. I'll go out for a little bit in May. I'll come back. I'll go out for a little bit in June. But this is not me leaving tomorrow and I'm gone until June. That's not how that works. It used to be when I was in my 20s. I can't do that anymore.
Comedy in stints, which in all honesty, similar to a writer or a voice actor, having time to reflect on what you're trying to say can better refine your end product anyway.
Exactly. To be constantly churning out content and answering to the algorithm, whether instead of answering to your actual experience and impulses, I think just ends up creating terrible art.
Well, lastly, I know you're focused on that the next couple months, but broadly speaking, what are you excited about? What's next for you? What can people kind of keep an eye out on that you might be working towards next?
I've got some movies coming out. A movie called The Dink is going to be out on Apple over the summer. I've got some more voiceover stuff coming that I can't talk about yet. More issues of my comic Minor Threats from Dark Horse will be out, including some spin-offs from that series. So there's always something coming. They can go visit PattonOswalt.com. It'll list everything that's on the way.
Comedian and actor Patton Oswalt, thank you so much for your time and good luck.
Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
That was KVPR's Elizabeth Arkalian. And that is today's show. Today's episode was produced by Jonathan Linden, Elizabeth Arkalian, and Carrie Klein, with support from the Central Valley Journalism Collaborative. I'm Sarith Hawk. Find the latest local news anytime at kvpr.org.
This is Tanya Mosley, co-host of Fresh Air. You'll see your favorite actors, directors, and comedians on late-night TV shows or YouTube. But what you get with Fresh Air is a deep dive. Spend some quality time with people like Billie Eilish, Questlove, Ariana Grande, Stephen Colbert, and so many more. We ask questions you won't hear asked anywhere else. Listen to the Fresh Air podcast from NPR and WHYY.